Welcome back to JMC Live. We have Stacy Harp on the line, and she's going to talk about how the vision came for Active Christian Media. Stacy?
Okay, Jeremy, thank you so much. I have to tell this story because, people always ask me, how did you do this? How did this happen? And I can just say that it really was the Lord's leading. It wasn't so much that I was planning this. I was in graduate school earning my master's in clinical psychology because for years all I ever wanted to do was be a marriage and family therapist and help people. And so I'm happy to say I have that degree, and I did do therapy for about 10 years. But as I was earning my degree and earning my hours so I could get licensed, which I've chosen not to get licensed, but I'll address that at some other time, here I am, the Lord birthed this company out of me. And at one point I was really struggling because I'm like, God, I don't know what you want me to do. So I sat there and I thought to myself, well, maybe I should just see if I could get Amy Grant on my show. And to me, that would have, I said, Lord, okay, I'm going to do something. If I can get Amy Grant on my show, then I'm going to say that you probably want me to do this because it seems like all of the counseling stuff I'm doing, it's not being blessed. I'm not making any money at it. But see, I was making money doing all this other stuff. And so I spent some time trying to figure out who her publicist was. It took me a while to dig out the info because it's under layers of different people. But I eventually did find it. And I emailed and I called and I said, I know that she has a brand new DVD coming out. This was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to know if I can interview her. And as I've found, just kind of naturally as I've gotten into this, if it's a huge personality, an A-lister like Amy is, they make you fill out an application and basically tell you everything about your show, how many people, blah, blah, blah. And so, I'm going, okay, God, this is too funny. So I'm filling out this little thing, and I'm telling them how big my show, which was really not that big. And I filled it out, and I'm like, okay, I sent it in. And then I thought, okay, well, we'll see what happens. Well, about 6 weeks went by, and the morning, about 6 weeks went by, and the morning I thought that nothing was going to happen. I remember thinking, oh yeah, I should probably be hearing back by now. I get this email from Amy Grant's people, and they say, I would like, we have time for you on such and such a date for a 10-minute interview. Can you take it? And I said, yes. And I could not believe it. It turned out it was the worst interview I think I ever did in my life. But the very fact that I got to interview Amy Grant was so cool. And what was really even cooler is that it just goes to show that if you ask, people are willing to answer, and they're willing to say yes. And a lot of people, I think the reason why they don't have exciting Christian lives and stuff is because they don't bother to ask. They don't bother to do things or step out in areas where they actually have to take a risk of being rejected, for one. But a lot of people said, well, how'd you get her on your show? And after all, you're a nobody, right? And I said, well, I just asked. And you know what? Now she's been on my show twice.
That seems to be the secret. I remember when I was raising money for my mission trip. And here I am, the homeless guy wanting to go on a mission trip. And every Monday we had this dentist that would come in and read a proverb. And he used to be my dentist. It's kind of funny. His name is Dr. Guy. G-U-Y. Go figure. He's kind of older gentleman with a gray set of hair. And here I am, 19 years old. And so I shaved my goatee off, made myself look my age. And I presented myself and said, I'm Jeremy Caverley, and I'm trying to go with Team Mania Ministries to Global Expedition South Africa. Can you help me? And that's all I said. And I had another friend, talk to him later. But he said, sure, I'll help you. How much is the trip? And I told him, how much it costs. And he says, well, here's $1,000. My jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, this is the first person that actually helped me. A dentist. Gave me $1,000 to go on a mission trip. I just had to ask. So I understand about the whole asking thing. And I don't just ask dentists and lawyers for help. I ask all kinds of people for help. That's how JMC Ministries works. But you continually do this every week, Stacy. I see a list of different possible interviewees that you're going through, and you just continually ask. You're like what somebody told me earlier this week. You're like a hornet. You're persistent. You don't give up. You just keep trying. If the door shuts, either you make a decision to keep knocking, or you just find someone else to talk to.
Well, let me just say one thing, and that is that I get a lot of press releases, and a lot of people ask to be on the show now. And part of my mission statement, even though it's not written on my website, my personal mission statement is I want Active Christian Media to be a place where people who wouldn't normally be able to get on a radio show because of the topic or even the demographic or whatever of the particular radio show, I want them to have a place to come and be able to talk, even if it's just to do one interview with me in my little show. And what's been fun is that, even though I've had a lot of famous people on my show, I've also had a lot of people on my program that nobody has ever heard of. And some of those interviews are some of my favorite, because you would never think in a million years. Well, let me put it this way. In the Christian world, one of my big pet peeves is that we elevate people in the Christian world to celebrity status. And I did it with Amy Grant. Okay, that's obvious. But the thing is we really shouldn't be doing that. The Bible teaches us that we should not show preference. We're all equal at the foot of the cross is what I like to tell people. And so, I am not any better than somebody who has no public, personality, and I'm certainly no better than somebody that does. But there, unfortunately, are a lot of people in the Christian media world who get full of themselves, and they really forget who they are, and they diss people who don't have a name. And it really bothers me because, I don't want to be that way, which is why I have a lot of people on. Like yesterday, I had a lady on. Nobody knows who this woman is, but I had her on talking about the food pantry stuff. And you know what? I've gotten a lot of feedback on that show, and who would have thunk, right?
Yeah, I did check into that show. It's a hot topic because the food pantry crisis, at least in the global network per state, a lot of states aren't making their quotas. Some of them are in the millions in the negative red. So finding out ways to get involved, how to create your own, and get other networking tools to move forward is something that needs to be heard. It's completely relevant for the day, especially for those that are struggling like they are, and then for those that want to serve. I don't understand why it's not more discussed. It's kind of like a under the rug topic, even though it's very pertinent to the day, especially with this economy.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the questions I asked on Facebook was, do you think that food pantries should provide food for animals? And you wouldn't believe some people are like, no, absolutely not. But the majority of people said yes, actually we should provide food for animals. And I think it's because people who say no automatically, they don't understand the situation with how people go to food pantries and all of that. They've never had to probably be in that situation. So
they're not understanding that these people face a situation where it's either feed your animals or feed your kids or pay the rent. That's what they're faced with. And the animals are a source of a psychological release that can be a very positive one, especially for children and the elderly. You take that paradigm away because of a situation such as, poverty, and you're already having to go and semi-humiliate yourself because a lot of people are embarrassed to go to a food pantry. It just makes the situation even worse. You already might have lost a job and you can't afford to do this, so now you got to lose your other loved one too, and he's going to have to suffer. It's just not fair. I do agree on the whole food pantry for animals. It's something you don't hear about either, but it is a necessity, I do believe.
Well, and, I think a lot of the grocery stores and the food pantry areas, they donate food as well for animals. So I think, people know that.
Mm-hmm. It's real great. When we come back for a break, we are going to talk about some of the pressing topics of the day. There's a lot of things going on in the world that Stacy and I are very adamant about, and you'll hear about that next. Be right back.